Hello.
Hey there.
Hey, Kyle. How's it going? Right, I just have to press some buttons here, and we are pressing buttons. Right, here we go. Uh, it's a bit moody in here, as we discussed. Leeds is a moody place. I'm just going to
Are we
do.
going in a bad mood?
I don't know. What sort of mood are you in? That's the most joyful they've been all year.
Terrible.
Yeah, I know. How are you doing today?
Doing very well, thanks. Had a nice day here. Very, very pretty outside. You know, I'm inside, but I got the window open. So.
Okay, nice. Whereabouts are you in the States?
I'm in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, which is kind of in the middle-ish part of the state, and we're in between the beach and the mountains. It's a good place to be.
And do you make the most of that? Are you into surfing or swimming or riding a bike or?
Well, we had a bunch of shark attacks this summer, so I was just surfing. We do go to the beach every summer for a week. We rent a house and we had a really great week with the family. And then we also, once a year at least, go up to the mountains, which is the mountains are actually closer. It's about an hour and 40-minute drive. Very
Wow.
close.
Yeah, ace. Have you got some sturdy boots?
Yeah, no, I don't.
Right. Okay.
But you know what? It's not that snowy and stuff up here. It's all pretty mild, so.
Yeah, I think maybe you Americans are more rugged than we are as well. I don't know.
A lot of Americans are, but I don't consider myself the average American. I didn't grow up here, so I don't know anything about football or basketball or baseball, and I frankly don't like any of that.
Okay, come on, that's good. Well, that's interesting. Can you tell us a little bit more about your background then? I mean, difficult to summarise, but can you tell us about your journey?
Yeah, the shortest, I'll try and make it really short. I grew up in Pakistan, Singapore, Cyprus, and Taiwan, and because my parents were overseas school teachers. So most of my life was spent outside of the U.S., and we just pop back every summer for a month and a half and sort of check in with family and stuff. But otherwise, yeah, I wasn't here in my youth.
Amazing. And was image making and creativity something that's central to you since really early on?
Yeah, since day one. My earliest memory of drawing was the Star Wars coloring books I had in the late 70s that were lying around the floor. And me not just coloring the pictures, but actually copying whatever the line art was in the book.
Yeah.
And then drawing superheroes. And then my mom, when I was in first grade, bought me a book full of nude female figures to draw, which was an unusual gift for a 7-year-old. I don't know what made her do that, but it really changed my life. That book changed my life. I just was obsessed with drawing those figures for about a year. On a daily basis, I remember just sitting and drawing those figures. And then after that, just never stopped drawing.
Amazing. And was there a point when that drawing and that creativity became something more vocational? Like, at what point did you say, I'm going to become an illustrator?
I didn't know what an illustrator was. I knew that there were pictures that were being drawn by people that were in publications I liked. I never, for some reason, didn't connect the dots and realize that, oh yeah, that's a profession.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I knew it was, I just didn't understand how that really came to be or who those people were. It was all kind of just this otherworldly thing. And then I was working as a graphic designer, and my employer introduced me to illustration annuals from Communication Arts and the Society of Illustrators.
Yeah.
And then it dawned on me that, oh yeah, these are grown people who make their living doing this. And then I instantly wanted to get the hell out of whatever I was doing, which we didn't know was great. We did graphic design for school profession, but I wanted to just draw all the time. So I submitted a personal piece into Society of Illustrators and got in on my first go, which was very lucky. So when I went to the party, I met some illustrators up there, and I kind of just bothered them for advice, and then I started putting together a portfolio.
Okay, amazing. And how long has that been since that point?
Yeah, I went to that party in 2003.
Right.
Prior to that, I was drawing for clients, but I was drawing, as an employee of a design firm. So I just started putting together work on the hours after my job.
Yeah.
And I started sending a bunch of work to small alternative news weeklies.
Yeah, okay.
And I very quickly started getting portrait work. So I was doing portraits for like 2 years. And when I got to the point where I was doing 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 jobs every week for these various alternative weeklies. I didn't have time to do both.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of make a decision and
Went for the Z.
yeah.
Yeah, fair play. I mean, I think I remember really early on seeing. Did you do a series of like really fluid line drawings of figures? And it was like
Yeah.
a bit of a personal project, but it somehow did it become a little bit viral within the online community. Yeah, I remember that was the first time I think I discovered your work. But there was something.
Called the Daily Figure. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And can you tell us a bit about that project?
That was 2009. I had been working independently for about 3 or 4 years, and was starting to feel like I wasn't doing enough of my own little projects, self-initiated things. So I decided every morning I'd draw a figure out of my imagination, and I drew it in a certain style where I wanted it to look really like what you described, sort of fluid and kind of just have a lot of energy to it, but also very minimalist.
Yeah.
And I put them up on a blog. I wasn't expecting to do anything. I just wanted to get them out there. But they caught on and got reposted a bunch of places, and I got subscribers. So I started selling prints and things like that. And that was the moment where I realized I didn't have to wait for commissions. I could create work first and then find a market for it.
Yeah, for sure.
And that really changed my whole business model, and that's what I've been doing ever since.
Okay, great. That's interesting. And I think business model is definitely something I want to discuss a little bit later on. Just looking at the script, I was going to ask you about whether or not... well, where are you in the house? Is this a studio you're in, or a library of some sorts? Or?
We just bought this house. We lived in another house for 7 years. We just bought this house in June, and I'm so happy because I finally have a real office where I can close the doors.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I had a great studio space in my old house, but then we had 2 children, and that became this enormous playroom for them. So I rented an office downtown. I still have an office downtown, but I now have a space in the house to work. So this is my office. I got a David Blaine poster. I love magic.
Nice.
And this is all my books, which my wife is always like, don't buy any more books. But I keep buying them anyway.
Well done.
There's the foyer out there. I mean, I can walk around if you want. I don't know.
Yeah, why not? I mean, it's nice. It feels very futuristic. And this is like the Matrix, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, this is the view. You probably can't see out the window. We live actually right next to a university, so if I were to walk straight out that way from my house and then go across the street, there's the campus of Wake Forest University, which is a very expensive private school, which we'll never send our kids to. And then, I'm in the foyer, I'm walking around, and then here's our, the house goes out to the...
Oh, that's lovely.
The yard out there. Yeah, you can buy property in North Carolina for nothing, so it's a good place to live.
Right, okay, yeah. Well, you can buy cheap houses here as well, but they're awful, so...
And there's some naked people here. These are drawings of mine from when I still had time to, draw for pleasure.
Yeah, lovely.
There's a drawing of my wife over the mantle there. Anyway, yeah.
Cool stuff, man. And I think I was going to ask you about any artifacts or treasures you have. Is there anything... do you have any treasure?
I went and found something from when I was in university.
What have we got?
So I spent 2 months on this in school.
Wow. Whoa.
So this is something I made out of clay, and then I had it fired in the kiln, and I've kept it ever since. It weighs about 12 or 15 pounds.
That's nice.
But I didn't do a good job of hollowing it out. When I fired it, I was worried it was going to break.
Is it based on? I mean, is it based on like a photograph, or did you have like actual skulls to study?
Yeah, we had a skull. That was the longest project I ever had in school. I went to a traditional fine art place, and one of the things we had to do as visual artists was we still had to do 2 or maybe it was 3 sculpture classes. And this was the final project for when I was a senior. We had to all make a skull. We had to spend a long while on it. So what was great about this is it made me understand the planes of the head.
Yeah, for sure.
So there it is.
Yeah, he's lovely. Does he have a name, or is it a lady? I don't know.
It was a male skull from northern Africa. I don't remember which country. They didn't maybe even say it. They said North African male head. And the teeth took forever.
Okay, come on.
I had to use gentle tools to carve it and all that stuff. So.
Amazing. I mean, you were mentioning about the lessons that it taught you, but having like a broader schooling like that, rather than doing a specialist illustration program, do you feel that that's given you certain advantages in terms of how you make work as an illustrator now?
I do. I can't compare it to what it's like to be educated with an illustration concentration, So I really don't know for sure. I have visited enough schools now, and I feel like I did have an advantage in that I spent so much time just drawing the figure.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel when I visit sometimes, the illustration programs at places I've been to, SCAD and other places, they try and cram a lot of that stuff in the first year or two, but then they focus more on illustration, which is good because I had to learn that stuff all outside of school. So I think there are pluses and minuses. Personally, I like the way I had my education because I spent so much time drawing nothing but people from life, from observation, and also doing painting from still life and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
A solid 4 years of that made it so that really a lot of things just kind of later on, if I had to learn some new principle or some new idea, I was able to absorb it very quickly because the foundation I had was so strong. You know what I mean? So by that point, I felt like drawing was kind of just part of my language.
Yeah.
So I was just adding a couple of words here and there. But the vocabulary was already really strong. So I like that. I like that approach.
Yeah, it's interesting because I wanted to. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring up. I'm not going to share you, but I'll just minimise you slightly on screencast so we can have a quick look at your folio as well. Because the thing that really strikes me looking at your folio is the diversity of work that you have in your portfolio. Not just the quality of it and the range of clients you're working with, but how adaptable you are. And I suppose
that's something I'm happy with.
Okay, great stuff. And I think it comes through. What comes through is that kind of confidence with drawing. It seems to underpin everything that you're doing. I mean, is that? I mean, I was going to say you just sort of mentioned it, but is this something that you have intentionally decided is appropriate for a web folio to sort of show a range of approaches?
Yes, it goes against all the advice I hear everyone give young illustrators, and so I kind of don't want to confuse people and give them the wrong impression. For me, this approach has always worked. It's always brought in more work rather than do what I was told it would do. I was told it would confuse art directors if I showed too many styles and too many approaches. But I just ignored that advice and posted a whole range of things. As long as I felt that the work was good work, then I thought, well, it's not really detracting from anything, so why not just show it anyway? I'm one person, and of course, I've always toyed with this idea of creating alter egos and having 2 or 3 personalities, and then creating different domain or URLs for whatever. But at the end of the day, I don't mind being this one guy who has I can kind of just do a bunch of stuff. And it seems to have always worked well for me because what tends to happen is an art director will hire me for a sort of more, like a lot of my editorial work had this line work with flat color kind of approach, this sort of comic booky sort of look. And they'll hire me for that on one go, but like this just happened that last month with American Way magazine, the art director said, hey, I saw you posted this really totally different looking piece, and can you please do that for our last page, and we'll do a monthly thing. So I got a monthly assignment with them for the next calendar year where they just wanted me to work in the style that I had posted, so it was completely separate from what they had hired me for in the past.
Wow.
So to me, that's a great thing. It's like I'm getting more work because I'm posting more work.
Yeah.
So
it's almost as though, it feels like you've almost situated yourself in a marketplace of people with very bespoke, tailored folios as someone who can do many things. It's like a curveball. It's like, wow, this guy really can solve problems, And I guess that appeals in terms of actually getting commissions, as you described.
I think it does. Maybe there are other art directors out there who don't like that approach and they just won't call me, but that's fine because there are some who do like it, or many that do like it, and it makes me kind of a go-to guy for whatever they need. So if they need a painterly kind of piece, they can still call me. And if they need something that's more line art based, they can still call me. And if they need a logo, they can call me. They know they can call me for various things, and I'll take care of it. So I was once described by somebody as a working man's illustrator, and I didn't think that was very flattering. But at the same time, I kind of agree with the description, descriptor. It's kind of like you want me to do that thing? Yeah, I can do that thing. You need some storyboards? I can do storyboards. You need a fully rendered final, big illustration for an ad campaign? I can also do that. So it's like kind of just doing whatever.
And I think in a discipline where there's so much rhetoric about, originality and artistry, there's still that notion that it is a profession. And I've rarely rung a builder and said, "Can you do a thing?" And they've said, "No, I only do one type of wall." I think it's very practical, and we have a module and we talk a lot on this course about actually making this a realistic way of making a living. And we know that's difficult, but we also know that there is work out there. And perhaps, maybe it's more of a UK thing. Perhaps we're more interested in ourselves, so I don't know. But I think there is a danger that we kind of we feed this culture of individualism a little bit too much, perhaps, to the point where we get beyond the fact that this is still a bread and butter, black and white job, problem to solve, client to please, send me the invoice.
Yeah, I get really nervous because a lot of times I read interviews with working artists who are kind of hot right now, or they're doing their thing and it's getting noticed, and they'll say things like, just find your voice and make your own work, and you're going to find the right place for it, and as long as your own personality comes through, you're going to be okay, and you're going to get work. And I think there's a little bit of that that's kind of it's misleading, and I think it's a little bit dangerous to say that to students because you are celebrating the individual a little bit too much without recognizing the fact that everyone has to make a living. So I'm in illustration for the long game. I want to be an illustrator. I want to have a career as an illustrator until I'm ready to stop working. And if I were to be so self-absorbed and think, well, here's my style, here's what I like. I like to draw cats on bicycles. I'm just going to draw cats on bicycles all the time. And eventually I'll find my market for those cats on bicycles. Well, okay, maybe there's a 0.001% chance that I will make a career being the cat on the bicycle guy.
Yeah.
Right? But let's be honest, it would probably be a lot wiser to draw like all kinds of animals on all kinds of vehicles. Just right there. And then beyond that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
I really don't want to, I'm just always thinking about where will I be 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Will I have enough stuff that I'm good at as a professional that will keep the fires burning? So maybe that's not the most romantic approach, but I do think it's a more realistic approach. And I also don't want to dismiss the notion that having your own sort of very strong visual style is it is an advantage. And it can. Well, I know some illustrators who've made a 30-year career out of just doing the same thing over and over again because it does have a very distinctive look.
Yeah. Well, I would still question whether or not there are recurring principles or themes. Do you think that within your practice there is something that ties all this work together?
I have a hard time seeing it because I'm myself, but I have friends who I'll post something and say, "Hey, does this look like I did it?" And yeah, it's obvious you did that.
Yeah.
And to me, I don't see any connection, but I've been told that if you look at all the work I have as a whole, there's some thread running through it that feels like my hand, and so whatever that is, I can't pinpoint it, but I'm glad that there is something there that people can sort of identify as my own, so that's a nice feeling, but personally, I don't always see it. I do think that everything I do is based on solving problems with figurative approach. I just love drawing people, I like drawing organic stuff, I like drawing, I don't like drawing cars and buildings. I have to draw them sometimes, but I'm also not a metaphor guy very much. I try, but that's not my forte.
No, there's bits and pieces. I was just enjoying that Twitter piece. The thing I was thinking about as well is in regard to this diversity. There has to be a conversation about your use of the computer and your use of brushes and that kind of breadth and huge variety of aesthetic of the media you work with. If it's okay, can we have a chat about your brushes?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about it. It's sort of like taking over my whole world.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, for the students in the room who don't understand, or because we've got some first years here who are still just like getting to know the space, and we're talking a little bit about it. Can you explain what custom brushes are and what you've started to do with them? And maybe can we have a bit about Cintiqs or Wacom as well, maybe?
Yeah, sure, of course. Yeah, when I was still working for the design firm, I had to draw an annual report for Krispy Kreme donuts. I think they still have those in England, right?
Yeah, delicious.
I actually drew the original T-shirt for the Harrods store opening.
Oh, wow.
But anyway, Krispy Kreme was our biggest client when I was working there, and they needed an annual report. And I went to the CEO's big mansion, and he wanted to show us around, and he wanted to show us a collection of folk art paintings that he really loved, and they were acrylic on wood. And we went back to the design firm, and we got the news that they wanted 8 paintings in 2 weeks. And I said, well, that's not going to happen. And I at the time had Photoshop 7, and I had read about people trying to emulate natural media with custom brushes. And I looked at what was out there, I didn't like it, so I just delved in myself. I traded myself and started making my own stuff. And I made some brushes that kind of felt like what I needed to do, and then I banged out those illustrations for the annual report. And we sent them all in, they got printed, and the CEO called us and said, I'd like to buy the originals for my collection. So that was sort of like this validation. I said, oh, good, we fooled him. So then I was kind of addicted, and whenever I had a moment, I would try and find some way to make some brushes do certain things. And this is just while I was on the job for my own entertainment, really. But then when I got on my own, I started taking those brushes and refining them, and I started getting requests from friends who were in the business, hey, can I try some of your brushes? And so I emailed them. And the way you make a brush is you fiddle with what Photoshop lets you do within the brush engine. There are all these things you can adjust and change, and there are settings you can mess with, and then you make shapes for the brush and shapes for the dual brush, which is a brush that can work with it. The first brush, there's a lot of stuff you can do. You adjust the flow of how much ink or how much of whatever you're painting with, it's all digital, is coming down through the device, like the paintbrush, how much the paint's coming out. Then you start trying to trick it to make it do things it's not supposed to do, so it can be very, very time-consuming. So I was doing all this stuff, and then I just thought, okay, I'm going to try and monetize this, because that's usually what I'm thinking about, is how can I take the time I'm spending and put some value on it. And so I released my first set of brushes, which I'm so proud of what I did, but to be honest, I really don't like those brushes now. I mean, that was 2 years ago, and they're so much more sophisticated now because I've spent so much time developing them. But I did release them, and they started getting profitable, and I turned my attention towards making that into a legitimate brand and business. And so I went from having 500 customers in the first 2 months to now I have over 120,000 customers around the world. And I spend most of my time with customer service emails and creating marketing for the brushes. It turned into kind of this crazy new business venture, and it's hard for me to juggle the brush business and still do all my commission work.
Yeah.
I'm managing. I'm sorry, that was really fast.
No, it's really, really interesting. And it's interesting, and I'll give you a bit of perspective from my end. That here I am, my own personal perspective. I'm teaching and I'm practicing as an illustrator, maybe once or twice, 1 or 2 days a week, and I'm part of a network of illustrators who have, I came across you online as someone that's practicing, but I kept hearing people in my own network saying, have you tried these brushes? Have you heard of these brushes? Then a couple of students were like, oh, look what I've done. I found these brushes. Have a go with this. And it's one of those things you're like, okay, yeah. And it's been really interesting to see, certainly in the studio here. Can I have a show of hands? Has anyone here played with Kyle's brushes? Okay, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 students. Third years as well. I know that they're well into them as well. And people are starting to see what's happening. And as someone who's a commentator on the kind of culture and discipline of contemporary practice, I'm starting to see that happening in a lot of people's work, no matter what kind of genre or kind of style of illustration they're making. And I'm thinking, if I'm honest, there's been a lot of cynicism from myself and other people in regard to digital brushes for a while, but suddenly something seems to have changed. And I think it's the technology and how kind of powerful it is, combined with some guy called Kyle who's actually made these brushes do what people have wanted him to do.
The difference is, so here are the 2 things. First, Photoshop changed.
Right.
When Photoshop CS5 came out, Adobe finally paid attention to brushes, and they changed their brush engine. And just by adding a few new tools that you could experiment with, settings rather, I should say, they blew the doors wide open for what was possible. The problem was, people making brushes were engineers, they were not artists.
Yeah.
So Adobe comes packaged with these pre-made brushes that are not designed by artists. They don't do what we did, they don't feel right, they feel digital, they don't do what we want them to do to emulate natural media, or the feel of natural media, or the look of natural media. So I was always doing my own stuff because I wanted it to feel like as close as possible to pastel or inks or whatever I was using in my traditional work. And so that's where I think I found the success, was that I realized if I'm frustrated with these products,
Yeah.
then every other illustrator must be frustrated as well. And
Yeah.
if I'm frustrated with how long it takes me to work with those built-in tools, then everyone else must also be. And then that's what made the difference, was when I started releasing them to working artists, I would instantly get this feedback like, oh my God, where have you been all my life?
Yeah.
And it's such a great feeling to realize, oh hey, Paulo Rivera, this fantastic marble cover artist, is now swearing by my brushes and using them every day. There are all these people using them who don't talk about them, like the artists who work on Game of Thrones. They all paint with all the concept arts, all painted with my brushes.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of cool stuff happening in the background, and it's making me feel like, hey, I really made something that makes artists, benefit from what I'm making. That's a really cool thing.
It's pretty seismic. I mean, I've noticed a resurgence in an aesthetic that seems almost like 40s-esque, kind of harking back to that notion of working with shape and colour through a print process, but somehow now, rather than having to fiddle with vectors, which was always kind of not intuitive enough, I always found.
No, I hate working with vectors.
But now,
no offense to anybody that likes to
no, it's fine.
I like to draw.
Yeah, for sure.
Making anchor points and stuff. That's not drawing to me. That's building shapes. I'm not interested.
Yeah, absolutely. And then so this shape-driven thing is becoming a bigger thing, and then I suppose that's going back into print, and it's seismic. But I'm also interested in whether or not you feel like there's any disclaimers that need to be made as we move forward, because talking to you about drawing previously, do you think, in terms of, in the context of who we're chatting to here and a group of people learning how to be illustrators, do you think there's an appropriate sort of way to engage with your brushes and still be developing your drawing skills?
My brushes won't be any good to anybody who doesn't know what the natural media feels like in the first place, because then they don't. It's not. I mean, I shouldn't say that. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, because you could pick a brush and you could discover a way of working with that brush that you never in a million years would have discovered had you just been experimenting with natural media.
Yeah.
Okay, so then that does happen sometimes. I'll have somebody completely change their portfolio because they found one brush that just suddenly feels like how they want to express themselves in terms of how they do. That's great, but with that said, those people still have really good drawing skills, great foundation. So sometimes I'll get emails from frustrated students where I'll post a demo video where I say, here's this new pencil I made. Like I released this thing called the animator pencil a couple months ago, and I did a demonstration drawing with it. And I got an email from the student and said, I can't make the animator pencil look the way you make it look when you're drawing. And they sent me a sample drawing they had done. Well, the sample that they sent me, there was no variation in the line weight. There was no consideration for, balancing the shapes, and it was like they had taken it and just pressed as hard as they could and made really big, messy shapes.
Yeah.
And, what I wanted to say to them was, you need to learn how to draw first.
Yeah.
Then I could hand you a stick, and you could, dip it in some mucus, and you could make a beautiful drawing because you know how to draw. And someone hands you a tool. So it's not about the tools are never really the solution to anything. Yes, the tools are important because you're not gonna. If you're a violinist, you're not going to go to some dime store and buy a secondhand, cheap, poorly made violin.
Yeah.
You're going to use a really great instrument, but it's because you know why that great instrument feels better.
Yeah.
If you don't know anything about the violin, you can't tell the difference between the two. So I feel that way about my tools. My tools, people notice that they're good if they're already working as illustrators or artists, or they can draw pretty well.
Yeah.
Then the difference is very apparent. So the first thing for everybody is get a stick of charcoal, define charcoal, look at somebody standing on the podium, on the model stand on the podium, and draw that person for a few thousand hours. And then take those skills and you jump into the digital world and start drawing. You're going to have incredibly good results.
Yeah. Okay, I'll second
I
that.
know that sounds a little bit harsh, but it's really true.
No.
You know, it's yeah.
Absolutely. And I think I'm really excited, but also very interested to see how these things start to affect the next generation of art students and the wave of people who are taking a different route to learning. But I still think, as you're describing, that the craft and the manual psychomotor skills involved in drawing still can't be replaced by your tools. They can only be elevated, I guess.
It's true, and I also think that if you do want to do drawing from observation, you can use digital tools to do it just as well as you can use traditional tools. The difference is you have to have good digital tools. So if you have a very small graphite, or now they call it, I think, Wacom, what's it called, darn it? It's the smallest tablet they sell,
Yeah.
the student model.
Bamboo? Someone's shouting out? I think that's
it was called Bamboo, and now they've just changed the name again.
Yeah.
It was Bamboo. Anyway, the Bamboo or any of those models.
Yeah.
They don't have as many levels of pressure sensitivity. They have 1,024 as opposed to 2,058. So they have half the amount of pressure sensitivity. The drawing space is just too small to comfortably move. I think when you're learning how to draw, you've got to be able to draw from your shoulder, learn how to really move your arm and control this whole appendage, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Not just sit there and do little sketchy stuff. And so if you were going to draw digitally, you would have to make an upfront investment and get a large Cintiq, a drawing tablet, where you can have that freedom to draw well and to have enough space to draw. So I kind of feel like there's a problem with this because students are on a student budget. So why would you spend $2,500 on a Cintiq? Well, so what they do instead is they'll buy a very small, tiny tablet, and then they've got the additional problem of drawing in their lap, looking at a screen, drawing in a teeny tiny area, so already their hand is not doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a problem there. I don't want students to do that because they're not going to learn how to draw as well as quickly. And they're also not going to get much out of the digital tools that are available in Photoshop, like my brushes, because without having enough real estate to explore and really work with them, you're not going to get that much of an upgrade, so to speak, in your experience.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Okay.
Yeah, it's weird.
We'll get the big bits of paper out for starters, and we'll hide the Cintiq till the end of the third year. Is there anyone got any questions that you want to ask Kyle about his brushes? Teresa?
What about the iPad Pro?
iPad Pro?
Okay, well listen, the iPad Pro, here's the deal. The technology is fantastic. But look, here's the big problem with the iPad Pro. Does it run Photoshop? No. So as a professional artist, you need professional tools all across the board. You may have a fantastic tablet. The iPad Pro is going to be absolutely stunning in terms of the feel. You know, first of all, the pencil is superior to Wacom's because the pencil, the edge of the pencil, okay, you can actually feel it making contact with the surface so that when you tilt it, you can feel how much of the edge you're drawing with. With the Cintiq and with the Wacom, I'm used to it. If you've already adjusted with the learning curve, I use tilt and I totally understand how much of the surface I'm drawing with, even though it's a little plastic nib, right? The advantage of the iPad Pro is the entire end of the pencil is a surface that makes contact with the drawing surface, and so that does feel more natural. But again, why do I want to draw in Procreate or some other app? That doesn't do me any good. As a professional, I want to make fit work from start to finish for a client. I want to do a sketch, then I want to do a final print-ready piece of art. For that, I need Photoshop. I'm on the studio or something, but really Photoshop is still the best application for that. So as excited as I am about the iPad Pro, I'm so disappointed that they are not taking the same path that Microsoft is taking. Microsoft says at the surface, we're giving you a really sensitive drawing surface, giving you a pretty good stylus, but we're letting you run Photoshop or any other application right there on this portable device. And Apple is sticking with this, we have our own operating system, iOS, and you can only run apps. Well, that's great for a hobbyist, but Apple used to be what the pros use.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that's how they distinguished themselves. It was like, well, I'm kind of a hack, so I'm going to stick with Microsoft. I'm a professional artist. I'm going to spring for a Mac. It's more money, but I'm a professional, and therefore I'm going to get the best tools. And then Apple changed their business model, and now they go more and more and more towards the lowest common denominator for who's going to use our product. We want everybody, the cat and the dog in the family, to be able to operate a Mac. When you do that, you take away a lot of what made the application special.
Yeah.
And so I'm really disappointed in them for not stepping up. On the other hand, there's a nice English company called AstroPad. You guys heard about AstroPad?
Yeah.
Now, AstroPad is going to make that leap, and they're going to help us to use the iPad Pro to use Photoshop. And I demoed the most recent version of AstroPad, and it was fantastic. There was still a little lag, which is something you have to get used to. But the fact that you had a mirror image of what you were working on your laptop or your desktop brought on the iPad screen, phenomenal. And when the iPad Pro comes out, that will help with that. But it still doesn't make up for the fact that you can't run the full software. I think that's disappointing.
I'm glad they've seen that opportunity, though, and I think that's definitely the route that people are going to have to investigate for the short term, at least.
Yeah, and I think that those guys are geniuses. The AstroPad guys.
Yeah, for sure.
I can't believe they came up with this. So I wish them the best. I hope they sell 1 million units when the iPad Pro comes out. But in the meantime, I also hope that Apple and Adobe will abandon this weird idea of, or rather Adobe's like focusing all this energy on their apps, and personally I don't see how any of those apps are useful for a professional.
Yeah, for sure. Greedy monkeys. Anyone got any more questions they'd like to ask Kyle about anything?
Just a quick question. What would be a good medium for someone who can't get a Cintiq because we're poor, but doesn't want to work on the bamboo anymore because it is a bit of a faff to work on such a tiny surface? What would you say is like a good option that's a bit dear, but if you save up and put your money into it, it'd be a good investment?
I've heard, I have not tested these myself, so I really can't tell you that I have thoroughly tested these devices, but I have heard that Yenova, which is Yiyynova, Yenova, this brand of tablet, the most recent tablets they have been making, I've heard are quite good and comparable to Wackham's Cintiq product. There are a few glitches, like the viewing angle you're not going to get the same consistency across the board with color and brightness unless you're right in front of it. There are a couple of small things that make it inferior, but overall, it's not a bad drawing experience. From what I understand, there are a lot of professionals who use these,
Cool.
The tablets. And then Monoprice is another competitor, which I haven't heard as much good stuff about Monoprice, but they're constantly updating these products. They want to be competitive with Wacom, so you have some options there. I believe the high-end Yenova tablet's only about $600 US as opposed to $2,100 for a Wacom 22. I have the 22 HD at home, and then I have the 24 HD. That's the 22 HD right there.
Yeah.
And I bought it refurbished because I don't like the new Wacom QHD. Well, okay, they're great. I love them. However, in order to run them, I would have to buy a new computer.
Yeah.
So there's the added expense there. So I really don't want to do that.
Yeah, that's it. We've all got to try and make this work on the budget that we're trying to work on. It's a difficult job.
Yeah, of course. By the way, I've got plenty of time for questions if you want. I've still got another 20 minutes before my wife comes home.
Okay, all right, cool.
And I knocked out all my assignments this morning, so right now I'm just going to do brushes stuff in the afternoon.
Okay, cool. Well, I don't know. I wanted to. I think we're doing okay. I think what we'll do is just going back to this sheet and just stepping back to just the discipline of illustration in a broader sense. I wanted to ask you, what do you think in a world that's becoming more and more saturated with output in terms of image making, what do you think makes a piece of illustration really great?
I think if it goes beyond simply decorating the page for an instant, then it's great.
Yeah.
If you want to come back and look at that image, and if you want to actually maybe own that image outside of its context, then that's a great achievement on the part of the artist. And that rarely happens because we are trying to illustrate the content.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
I'm talking about editorial illustration here. So there are a few people who seem to frequently make a piece of art that kind of stands on its own. John Hahn, for example,
Yep.
tends to make images that I can look at outside of the context of the article and just think, man, that's just a great drawing.
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
for sure.
Sam Weber does that. Sometimes Jillian Tamaki,
Yeah.
who I personally think is the greatest living draftsperson.
I've been saying that here as well. I've been saying that here.
Yeah,
Isn't she the best, man? She's the best.
makes me a little sick.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
It's so easy. I've never actually seen her draw, but I'm assuming it just kind of flows out of her like magic.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who else? Well, yeah. So there are some people who pull that out, and I
Yeah.
don't know how they do it. It's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'll tell you what. Finally, I wanted to ask you, what advice would you give yourself if you could talk to yourself now, just as you were beginning your education as an artist? What would you tell yourself?
Good question. Well, on the technical side, I would tell myself to pay more attention to color theory and color, because that was something I struggled with in school, but I didn't know where to go to learn more about it and fix that problem. I didn't actively seek out resources where that would help me to get more comfortable with color. And so to this day, that remains my biggest weak spot is understanding color and light. So that's on the technical side. But then I'm actually really happy with how I spent my time in school. I was a very serious student, and I had a lot of long nights in the studio drawing when no one else was there because I wanted to get better at drawing.
Yeah.
But I credit my one teacher I had there, or maybe two, at the university. Michael Ananian was my drawing instructor, and I also had another drawing instructor, Joe Maggio. And those guys, John Maggio, excuse me. Those guys made me they kind of broke me down and reassembled me into a good drawer.
Yeah.
I came into school very confident because in high school, I was the art guy, like many of you, I'm sure, were the person who would, can you draw me a Pokemon, or can you draw me a this, whatever it is in junior high school. And then you get to college and realize, oh wait, there are a lot of people who can draw. But they really broke down all my bad habits, made me start from scratch, and kind of built me up into now someone who knows how to draw a lot better. So I was very serious about that. But on the business side as an illustrator, I would have definitely liked to time travel and told myself a couple of things about contracts and rights and fighting for fair fees and understanding that world better when I first got out in the world, because I was taken advantage of a few times. I didn't know enough about pricing. I wasn't that thorough with contracts, and that's a big deal. Everybody needs to be very aware of not only how that has a negative impact on your own career, but how, unfortunately, when you say yes to bad terms, you're making it bad for every other illustrator out there, because then you're setting a new low standard for what something should be worth, what terms are acceptable for an illustrator. It's a bad scene. So, I wish I could.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I learned the hard way and then quickly, and I got out of that and corrected it. But
Okay, cool, Mum. Thank you for that. That's a really great answer. I think we're going to tie it up there.
Okay.
But it's been great to talk to you. And I think if anyone, if people want to, ask any more questions and stuff, you can always, maybe ping an email or, talk to me, and we'll chat with Kyle later on. But I think for now, we'll just say thank you. And can we all give Kyle a round of applause? And I'll just say thanks very much and have a lovely afternoon.
Thanks for having me, and nice to meet all you guys. I hope your mood is improved. And, good luck with your careers and with everything else, and have a great day.
All right, cool, man. Thank you very much. Cheerio.
Thanks, Matt.